Shalom, Israel, shalom, shalom. Brother Naquam, watchman for Israel, coming back at you with these precepts and another cold cut to give it, of course, our honor and our glory to Yahweh. Double honors to the elect elders of the house of David that's been in this truth for decades and decades, patiently waiting for the second coming of Mashiach Malak Yabushai. A hearty, mighty shalom to all of the mighty men of the Most High God who are out there in the highways and byways, pushing this truth, magnifying the ministry, and presenting their body as a living sacrifice. Shalom, shalom. Shalom to all of the men that may not be out there on the highways and byways as of yet, but they're working on it. They're studying, they're praying, they're fasting, they're being diligent and abounding in the work of the Lord. Shalom, shalom. Shalom to all of the Akwath out there, the sincere sisters out there, holding it down in the households, reverencing their husbands, being submissive, being diligent, and moving in the spirit of our righteous foremother. Shalom, shalom. Shalom to everybody tuning in live. Joshua Brewer, Shalom King, 2002, right? Smile, FYC, HBK Int, Shalom. Ancients knew, why don't we? We got next Israel, Evangelina Vega, right? Salakia for the mispronunciation. Anthony Knox, Ancients knew, why don't we? Margaret, Wesley 305, Shalom, Shalom, and everybody else tuning in and that will tune in, Mosai willing, right? The topic of this cold cut is Volume 2, Biblical History, the Fathers of the Promise, and the Holy Patriarchs, right? And this is really a continuation of a cold cut that was done early this week. I went into in part 1, and I went into biblical chronology, went into biblical geography. We even touched on, went into particular laws, statutes, commandments. And this is going back into how life, was pretty much conducted in the ancient world, because we as a nation of people, we have a rich heritage, man. We have a rich history as a nation of people. And like I brought out in a previous cold cut, I went into, let me get this in Job chapter 8, right? The classic. Went into how we have to make that initiative to understand our history, man, as a nation of people. And I'm not just talking about 16, 19, 1700s, your history. We're going back today, right? This morning, all the way back 2000 BC, right? 2100 BC. This is well over almost 4,000 plus years ago, man. About who your forefathers are. All these other nations, they get to do it, man. The Chinese man, he gets to talk about what happened 3000 BC, right? And some of the Moabites, they can't even go back that far, man. Because they didn't even become a nation until a particular time. See, we're so rich as a people. A lot of these nations, they came out of us, man. And these other nations, they, even the history that they know, they're familiar with it. But our people, we don't know too much, man. Right? This is Job chapter 8 and 8, the classic. For inquire, I pray thee, of the former age, and prepare thyself to the search of their fathers. For we are but of yesterday and know nothing, because our days upon the earth are as a shadow. So the Lord said, inquire, I pray thee, of the former age. The former age is the elder world, the ancient times, the days of Abraham, the days of Isaac, the days of Jacob. Huh? And you have to prepare yourself for the search of your fathers. This is not just talking about a DNA test. Okay, I did 23andMe. Okay, I want you. You know this guy, y'all kind of look alike, and you ask him, look, can you take this paternity test? And you take out a cotton swab and you dab the side of his mouth, and he says, yeah. And then you put it in a Ziploc bag, and you wait a few days, and you get your results, and you go to him and say, hey, look, you're my. No, that's not what it's talking about, man. What the Mosai said, prepare thyself to the search of the fathers, is speaking about your biblical forefathers. From the time of Adam to Seth to Enos, etc., all the way up to Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Judah, or Joseph, or Levi, or Simeon, or Gad, or whatever son of Israel that you come out of. And the Lord said, for we are but of yesterday and know nothing. We really don't, right? We don't know too much about this heritage, about what it meant for Jacob and his journeys, what that meant for Isaac, right? The pilgrimage of Abraham, what happened during the days of Lot. You ask the average so-called Black, Hispanic, and Native American, when did Abraham walk the earth? And who's Isaac? They're not going to know. Right, Salaki? The Lord said, we are but of nothing. we are but of yesterday and know nothing, because our days upon the earth are as a shadow. Right? Let's get the other classic. Let's go to Deuteronomy, right? Chapter 32. Right? Let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 32. And I'm going to get verse 7. Right? Deuteronomy chapter 32 and 7. It reads, remember the days of old. Consider, it's like, let me make sure this is showing. Consider the years of many generations. Ask thy father, and he will show thee, thy elders, and they will tell thee. Right? So you have to remember the days of old, go into that history, go into those accounts about what your forefathers experienced as they walked with Yahweh Bashmi Yahushua. And if these men and our fathers, a lot of our fathers aren't in the truth. Slim to none chance that your earthly father is in his truth along with you. But if his father and your father were in this thing, you would ask him and you would be raised up in the knowledge of the Most High. And we don't have the luxury like these other nations do to have earthly fathers and grandfathers and great grandfathers pass down our lineage and our history and pass down these ancient accounts to us, man. You know, your grandfather taught your father how to hold a gun, probably. You know, how to buy a pack of cigarettes when he was 13, or he might have got drunk at a bar and you learned how to drive. You had to drive your dad drunk back in the day, or he might have taught you today how to roll a blunt, man, and play 2K. That's what Jake and fathers will teach your sons now. But in the ancient world, if you were to ask your fathers particular things about who you were, they would tell you. They would say, look, I come from my father Terah, and then his father Nahor, and his father Serug, his father Reu, and all of these men, those are who your lineage is. Right? Or I come from Judah, then my father was Israel, and my father was so-and-so. Right? But we're going to dive into it, man. We're actually going to go into Genesis, and we're going to pick up essentially where we left off. So if you haven't seen volume 1 or part 1, you can type in the same title on the same channel, and you'll see part 1 as we went into it, right? And we're going to focus predominantly on Jacob, right? And the history behind Jacob. This is a disclaimer. Let me put this disclaimer out there. You will not see Esau bow down in this video, right? You will not see us getting on a so-called black woman. You are not going to see the police come out, right? And brothers, you know, dealing with the so-called white man, right? We're not going to go into the missiles dropping, right? We may go into the missile drop, right? But you're not going to see folly and vanity, right? Right? We're going straight into history, straight into knowledge and understanding, right? So this is Genesis chapter 29 and 1. Then Jacob went on his journey and came into the land of the people of the east. And he looked, and behold, a well in the field, and lo, there were 3 flocks of sheep lying by it. For out of that well they watered the flocks, and a great stone was upon the well's mouth. So this is Jacob on his journey. What journey is this? Remember, Isaac told Jacob, go to Padan Aram. We went into that in the last video, and marry a wife of my kindred. Right? Let me actually get that account. So Genesis 29 is really a continuation of Genesis chapter 28, right? About the mission or the journey that Isaac told Jacob to do regarding a wife to get, man. Because there was always a set time for a man to get a wife. Even when you read Tobit said, when I became a man, or when I became the age of a man, I took Anna, a wife of my own kindred, paraphrasing. So there was a set time when you became a man in the ancient times when it was time for you to take a woman, man. You know? Now, this is Genesis, and really, this is, I believe, Jacob is around 40 years old at this time, right? Not saying that was the standard time, but around this time, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Jacob is around 40, right? Or give or take somewhere around that age. Now, here's where 29 kicks off, Genesis 28 and 1. And Isaac called Jacob and blessed him and charged him and said unto him, thou shalt not take a wife of the daughters of Canaan. So the Most High said, don't take a wife of the daughters of Canaan. right? The Hittites, the Amorites, those filthy, blood-drinking, wild beast heathen, man, like Esau did. And go to Padan Aram, to the house of Bethuel, thy mother's father, and take thee a wife from thence of the daughters of Laban, thy mother's brother. So he was told to go to a specific place. We went into Padan Aram. Padan Aram essentially is in modern day Syria, right? That's where it is. It's essentially modern day Slovakia, right? Bear with me. It's essentially in modern day Syria, right? And it means what? It means the land or the field of Aram, right? Now, when you put this up on a map, here's a map of Jacob's journey, right? Here's the journey that Jacob had to go to. So starting south in the land of Canaan. So here's red. He's in the red, right? He's in the red right here. And you could clearly see his journey. This is really his journey to Haran, to where Laban was, to find his wives, Rachel and Leah, etc., and then his journey back. So in the dark red, this is journey going northward. So from Beersheba, past Bethel, right, to Shechem, all the way past to Damascus, right, going up, and he meets his relatives in the land of where Laban was, around the land of Haran or Padan Aram. And this region right here is where Jacob sojourned to, right? This is where Jacob sojourned to meet Rachel and Leah and work for Laban. And in the red dot, this is journey back from Haran, right? When the Lord called him to go back into his land. So he had to go up here, and they got this pretty much right for about 20 years, working in Haran as a shepherd for Laban. Right, I had another map I want to bring out. Right, Salakio, that's a more detailed map. Here's another one. We brought this out before. So here's this map key. Again, the map key shows what each color means. And sometimes there's symbols, what they mean on this map. So looking at the blue line is the journeys of Jacob. You can see Jacob traveling from Beersheba, right, south in the land of Canaan, going north to Padan Aram, around the land of Haran right here. And this is where Laban lived at. We went into how Nahor, which is the father of, the brother of Abraham, lived in this region, and his son Bethuel, he lived in this region, and his son Laban, they all lived in this region, you know? Now, when you go into this account in Genesis 29, it says, then Jacob went on his journey and came into the land of the people of the east. Now, the people of the east is really the Syrians, the men of Aram. That's another name for the people of the east. You'll see that term, the people of the east country, right? All throughout the Bible or in different parts in the Bible. You may say, well, who are the people of the east? Well, essentially, those are your Syrians. Remember, you have, you have 18 nations. Where is this at? I had, I want to get this. Let's see. Bear with me. Okay, you have 18 nations in the Bible, right? 18 nations in the Bible. Israel all the way down, right? You got the Edomites, which are the so-called white men in the Hebrew. That's Adawam. Your so-called East Indians, that's Ayalam, the Elamites. Your Assyrians, that's Ashur, Ashur, you read that. Syria is Aram, right? Your Arabs is your Ishmaelites, Yashma'ala. Your so-called Chinese man is Mawa'aba, right? Which means up his father, the Moabites. Japanese, Amawan, right? Which are your biblical Ammonites. Ethiopians, Kawash, right? Which means dark face or burnt face, right? Slakia. Your Egyptians, Montazarium, right? Mizraim, which means double straits of bondage, right? North Africans, those are your men of Libya, out there in Cyrene, modern day Morocco, modern day Algeria. Those are where those men are. That's Pawat, right? The Pawatites, right? Or foot, how we say. Your so-called South Africans, Kanaim or Kanayan, Canaanites, Turkey, Gamar, your Russians, Magawak, Magog. We went into how we know really Edomites went into these lands of Japheth that took over, right? That may be the next series we're going to. But the Greeks is Yawan, your Germans, Ashkenaz, Spanish, the Rashashiyash, right? Or the Rashiyash, Salakia, which is Tarshish, and Cyprus, Cathayim, or Kittim. What we're focusing on right here are the children of the East, which are essentially Aram, right? You had some Ashur there, but really Aram. And you had some Yashma'ala there, right? Some Ishmaelites there, right? But predominantly the children of the East was inhabited by the men of Aram, right? That's what the people of the East are called. Now, that's where Jacob came to. He came to the people of the East. When you go to the book of Job, right? Let's go to Job chapter 1. It says Job was greater than all the men of the East, right? Even Solomon. Solomon was greater than all the children of the East, right? So this is Job chapter 1, right? Just so brothers understand that. I'm going to read 1 and 1, maybe to around 3, right? Job 1 and 1. There was a man in the land of Uz whose name was Job, and that man was perfect and upright, and one that feared the Most High and eschewed evil. And there were born unto him 7 sons, right? Salaki, bear with me. There were born unto him 7 sons and 3 daughters. His substance also were 7,000 sheep and 3,000 camels and 500 yoke of oxen and 500 she asses and a very great household. So that what? So that this man was greatest of all the men of the East. You see that? So he was greater than every man of the East. Pulling up the map. Let's get this map again. Right? He was greater than all the men of Aram, right? Even all the men of Ashur. There was no man greater in any other nation of the East than Joab. I mean, Slakia, than Job. All right. Let's get another precept. Let's go to Judges. I had that one initially pulled up. Judges, the 6th chapter, dealing with the people of the East. Right? This is Judges chapter 6 and verse 1. Right? And the children of Israel did evil in the sight of the Lord. And the Lord delivered them into the hand of Midian 7 years. And the hand of Midian prevailed against Israel. And because of the Midianites, the children of Israel made them dens which are in the mountains and caves and strongholds. So we was being oppressed, and we had to flee into strongholds and mountains and dens, which is similar to what we go through or what we went through during 70 AD. You know, and ultimately, in the days to come, we're going to be pilgrims on the earth, right? You'll be in dens, flying in mountains. I mean, living in mountains, caves. A pilgrim, huh? Like during the time of Maccabees. It reads, and so it was when Israel had sown that the Midianites came up. Right now, the Midianites, they come out of Abraham. Technically, they're a Shemitic nation of people. You know, the Midianites, but a lot of them mingled up with the Cushites. That when you go into that history, the Midianites came up, and the Amalekites and the children of the East, even they came up against them, right? So those are your children of the East. These are those who Jacob encountered. When you look at it on the map, those are the men who lived in Mesopotamia, right? East really are the Euphrates, right? Around this region up here, what they call the Fertile Crescent. Here's where Ashur lived, right? And you have here's where Aram lived. Haran, Carchemish, Padan, Aram. Right? So now we know where Jacob is at. And now you know when you're seeing that term people of the East, you can pinpoint on the map where exactly it is on the earth. right? Let's go back to Genesis 29:2, right? And he looked, and behold, a well in the field, and there were 3 flocks of sheep lying by it, for out of that well they watered the flocks, and a great stone was upon the well's mouth. And thither were all the flocks gathered, and they rolled the stone from the well's mouth, and watered the sheep, and put the stone again upon the well's mouth in its place. So they literally dealt with cattle in the ancient world, right? They had to water and feed the flock, when it was cool outside, and remove the stone. Life was different, man. They didn't just do a Instacart and get them a case of water, man. Right? They had cattle in the ancient world and livestock. And that really determined your wealth. The more flocks you had, like we read in Job, Job had she-asses, cattle, oxen. That's what determined your wealth, right? Let me get a quick precept on that. Right? When you had cattle, it was a sign of wealth. Nowadays, people have cars, houses, Rolexes, paper money. These are the things that make a man wealthy in this society, right? But those things can be destroyed, man. Right? And those things are corruptible. Now, when you have the life like our forefathers had, right? This Genesis 13:1. And Abram went up out of Egypt, he and his wife, and all that he had, and Lot with him, into the south. And Abram was very rich in cattle, and silver, and in gold. So how come it didn't say cars, money, and women, man, and weed, and drugs? He was rich in kilos. Where's the account of Abram being rich and damn kilos, man, of coke? It's not in there, right? Because really your wealth was determined in cattle. Why cattle? Because cattle is for food, cattle is for plowing, right? Breaking up the ground, and for plowing the land, like oxen, strong oxen. You have cattle and sheep for clothes. You have it for milk. You have it for food. You have it for transportation, right? So cattle are very important, man. If you didn't have cattle, you really wasn't about nothing, man. Then he had silver and gold. Gold is always going to be valuable, no matter what time period you live in, no matter how much money you have, man. I'd rather have gold. I'd rather have damn infinite amount of gold than an infinite amount of white man paper money, because that gold is always going to hold value. The value of paper money is according to what the so-called white man says, man. So really in the ancient world, if you had cattle, silver, gold, also land, if you had land and slaves, that's what made you a wealthy man. And Abraham had all the above. He had cattle, silver, gold, slaves. Abraham, he had land. Abraham was so wealthy, he had an army, man. He had a mobile army. Sometimes you'll see these guys, these top celebrities, they got their bodyguard. Like you may see Floyd Mayweather going around, or these top guys, they got a bodyguard. You try to walk up on them, they say, look, what are you doing? These guys, they're rapping on stage, a fan to jump on stage, and security will push them off. Or, you'll have these guys that play sports, and they'll jump on the field. Fans will jump on the field. Security will come and tackle to protect these high-end athletes. Guess what? Abraham didn't have one security guard. He had about 318. So, I mean, what man that you know now that allegedly has money, Steph Curry's, you got these guys with max contracts and NFL, NBA. You have high-end A-list actors whose names are on the Walk of Fame. None of these men have what Abraham had, right? They don't have anything, man. They might have a little mansion out there, maybe Beverly Hills, or, they might have a 4-car garage, but they don't have slaves. LeBron James doesn't have slaves. So you really don't have nothing, man. You don't have gold and silver. He doesn't have an army. Where's LeBron James' army? So the army of LeBron James against the army of the so-called white man. Right? So, and we had an army back then, man. So the people of the East, life was different back then. But let me go back to Genesis 29:4. And Jacob said unto them, my brethren, whence be ye? Right? Meaning, where are you from? And they said, of Haran are we. So they're one of the children of the East. And he said unto them, know ye Laban, the son of Nahor? And they said, we know him. Right? Now remember, Laban is the nephew of Abraham. Let's pull up Abraham's family tree again. Right? Let's pull this up. Right? So brothers who missed out and didn't see the previous lesson we went into, it's important to go into these family trees, man, to know who came from who. Because if you don't go and look at it on paper, you know, you'll be confused. Okay, Haran, are there two Nahors? I thought Nahor was the father of this man. And okay, well, did Isaac, how was Isaac and Rebekah related? I thought Isaac was, and you got to look at it, man. Right? You have to look at this. This is your family. And I'm not talking about your grandmother's photo album, and she shows you all those old dusty pictures of Uncle Leroy and his Cadillac in the street, man, in front of the house, posted up. Or your Auntie LaBelle, man, from Mississippi, and Luann, and all those old names, man, that came out of slavery. The Lord isn't dealing with that, man. The Lord doesn't care about Luann out there in the field, man, in front of the cabin that her grandmother was a slave in. You know, now that's part of your family, but it's deeper than that, man. You have Abraham, you got Nahor, you got Haran, you got Terah, you got Terah's father, who was whose name was also Nahor. You know, so when you go back to I'm gonna explain that. But when you go back to Genesis 29, it says this is what Jacob said, and ye said unto them, know ye Laban, the son of Nahor? And they said, we know him. So Laban is the son of Nahor. Right here you have Nahor. Nahor is the actual blood brother of Abram. Nahor is the blood brother of Abram and also the brother of Haran. That's why that land is called the land of Haran. It's named after this man Haran, who died in the land of Haran, right? And nobody knows how he died. It's not written. Only Yahweh Shai knows how he died. But that land was named after him. We'll leave it after that. And everybody knew that. So Haran, he wasn't a nobody, right? He wasn't a nobody. He was a somebody out there, you know, and he was a somebody. So they actually named that land after him, you know. And Nahor, right? Nahor lived out in the land of Haran or Padan Aram, right? And Malchor, so he married his niece, for lack of better terms, and they had Bethuel, right? Bethuel had Laban. Laban in the Hebrew means white, right? And he also had Rebekah. Now Rebekah's name in the Hebrew, it means to be subtle, right? When you look it up, to be subtle or to be crafty through beauty or through looks, you know, so that spirit of subtlety. Rebekah was subtle. Laban was subtle. They were very subtle. Abraham was subtle. We come from a very subtle nation of people, you know, a heritage. So Laban and Rebekah are brother and sister. We all know that Isaac married Rebekah, right? Now dig this. Abram, I know it may be complicated, but the more you look at it, I mean, you'll understand, right? Abraham's nephew is Bethuel. So that would make Rebekah his great niece, if you can understand. That's his great niece. So he had his son, Isaac, marry his great niece. And I mean, that's how things work, man. Or essentially his cousin, if you can understand. Right? Now, when you go into, or Isaac, that's Isaac's cousin. Abraham's great niece, Isaac's cousin. Now, Isaac married Rebekah. Isaac told Jacob, go to where Laban is, and I want you to marry a wife of the daughters of Laban. Laban had two daughters, Rachel and Leah. Now, let's go back to Genesis 29, right? So they said, we know Laban. And he said unto him, is he well? And they said, he is well. And behold, Rachel, his daughter, cometh with the sheep. And lo, he said, lo, it is yet high day, neither is it time that the cattle should be gathered together. water ye the sheep and go and feed them. And they said, we cannot until all the flocks be gathered together, until they roll the stone from the well's mouth. Then we water the sheep. Right. So he said so rolling this stone required multiple people. But we'll see about our forefather. And while he had spake unto them, Rachel came with her father's sheep, for she kept them. So Rachel was essentially a shepherd or shepherdess. And it came to pass when Jacob saw Rachel, the daughter of Laban, his mother's brother, and the sheep of Laban, his mother's brother, that Jacob went near and rolled the stone. So Jacob was a strong man, right? He was a very mighty man to roll the stone where it took multiple people to do, you know? And, Jake do that, man. You see a woman come around and you kind of, you're showing off and you're making things happen and you're moving big, heavy stuff and you're flexing. And, that's what Jake do, man. Jake can see a woman and they may have a nice car, then they might kind of drive slow, right? They'll hold down traffic so everybody can see their car. Or I know Jake, they'll play basketball. They women to be there and they do the most, man. Right? Or football, your woman come and she watching you play sports or whatever. You start showing off, man. We know Jake, man. This is what Jacob is doing. Here you have this big stone that requires multiple people. He sees Rachel, says, I got this, man. And takes the stone and moves it by himself. We don't know what's going on with Rachel. Oh, he's strong. Oh, look at this man. What man is this? Right? So this is where we come from. Right? Jacob, you're wondering, a lot of people wonder why we do the things we do. Well, read the Bible, man. Read about why we like gold. Why does the average so-called Black, Hispanic, and Native American man like chains, like gold, like fronts, dress the way we do? Look, all you have to do is read your heritage, man. Read about Solomon. Read about David. Read about the jewelry and the crowns and the fashion and the music. A lot of Jakes wonder, why do we like this music? Why we like this? Read about David was writing lyrics. Solomon was writing lyrics, man. These things that we do it in wickedness, right? Or people of the world, they do it in wickedness. But now your forefathers, they were all doing it in righteousness. So let's read on. That Jacob went near and rolled the stone from the well's mouth and watered the flock of Laban, his mother's brother. And Jacob kissed Rachel. And brothers don't have that on them right now. They're not equipped what they call a game. Right? You just roll up and kiss a woman, man. Right? And she's not, get off of me. Rachel didn't say, stop, ew, I don't know you. Hey, Jacob, he was that guy. He could do that. Now, brothers, you can't do that. You don't have what Jacob had, man. Go, get up, right? Close out the live, close your laptop, go outside, right? Or after the Shabbat, and you'll see a beautiful woman and just do this. Pull the Jacob, right? You don't know her from nowhere, and then just go and kiss her. And you might be in jail, man. Or she might, something might happen to you, man. She may press charges on you. Go to the workplace and see a beautiful woman, right? Go to and you see a woman, she may be at the next cubicle and, you want to introduce yourself and just go up to her and kiss her and see what happens. Brother, that's sexual harassment 101 and you'll be out of there, man. She'll do things. So Jacob had that. Right? Jacob kissed Rachel and lifted up his voice and wept. And Jacob told Rachel that he was her father's brother. Right? And meaning not actual brother as in I'm the brother of Rebecca, but we're brothers, we're family. And that he was Rebecca's son, and she ran and told her father. And it came to pass when Laban heard the tidings of Jacob, his sister's son, right, that he ran to meet him and embraced him and kissed him, right? That's not the same kiss, that a man do with his woman, right? A kiss in the ancient world is like how we salute one of brothers, or you see Italians, right? The so-called Italian man, they actually picked that up from Jake. right? They'll kiss each other on the cheek. You know, so things were different, man. They had an ancient, they wasn't like, oh man, that's, you know, Jake, you say pause, you say no homo. You know, our forefathers were they had an ancient mind, right? They had a very ancient mind. And things that you may not accept and things that you may deem taboo, they were very normal back. It was normal for a man to meet a relative and kiss him. Like I said, even the Italians, the men down in Sicily, certain nations, they still do that to this day, man. You know, think Elamites and ancient nations, they still kiss one another. Jake, you're not going to dap up your man or your homeboy and kiss him. You know, because our minds are bad, and Jake is off now. You never know what's going on in Jake's mind now, right? But why they damn doing it? But back in the ancient world, everybody knew what the deal was, man. You know, there are certain customs. Let me get this custom real quick. This is Genesis 24. And the Lord said, greet every man with a holy kiss. So that was being done for thousands of years amongst our people, right? Let me get that first in 1 Thessalonians, right? Then I'm going to get back to the point. 1 Thessalonians, right? 1 Thessalonians chapter 5. And I believe that's what I want. I'm going to have to find it. Oh, 26. Greet all the brethren with a holy kiss. So we know it wasn't off. It wasn't what you thought it was. Well, I want to go into this word kiss and see what they go into, right? What that word is in the Greek. They give me philema. I believe that goes back to philo, meaning brotherly love or love, right? A kiss, a sign of fraternal affection. What does fraternal mean? Fraternal means brotherly, right? Like what they have fraternities, or you have fraternal twins, or a frat or whatever, right? Or fratricide when you kill your brother, right? So fraternal affection, brotherly love, man. You know, which was a sign of fraternal affection. Christians were accustomed to welcome or dismiss their companions in the faith, right? You see that? Now let's go back to let's go to Genesis. Like I said, you have certain nations that still do that. I'm not going to look it up because I don't know what's going to pop up on my screen, right? And today, you know, you can't even look up stuff. You type it in and they'll flag the channel because God knows what will pop up, man. But you can look it up. You can see, you know, different like Greeks or Italians, they still do that, right? So let's go back to, I want to show this other custom real quick, right? This is Genesis chapter 24. You know, a lot of men today, they couldn't survive in those ancient times. You couldn't deal with cattle, can't deal with sheep. All Jake do is they're on your phone, you're scrolling, you know, you go to work, but you know, you have to move, you have to be healthy, you have to farm, you have to deal with livestock, right? Genesis chapter 24. And I'm gonna read verse, let's see, and 1. And Abraham was old and well stricken in age, and the Lord had blessed Abraham in all things. And Abraham said unto his eldest servant of his house, that ruled over all that he had, look what Abraham said, put, I pray thee, thy hand under my thigh. So this was a sign of really an oath back in the ancient world. And why was it under your thigh? Because this was one of the highest levels of an oath. And that's really talking about when you go deep into it, it's talking about your progeny, your bloodline, right? So it's speaking about preserving your family lineage and preserving your family heritage. So a man will have to put his hand under your thigh, right? Now, under your thigh is really speaking about, you know, under that area, like underneath that part, man, right? To let you know that this is serious, man. This is about my blood, and this is about my descendants, right? My sons and my sons' sons. So if somebody made you put their hand under your thigh, then it was the real deal, man. You couldn't mess this up because this is about this man's heritage, and you had to make an oath. Now Jake isn't doing that now, right? I mean, God knows what, man. A man tells another man back in the ancient world to do this. They knew what it was. But today, everybody's mind is bad. Right? Everybody's mind is bad and is spoiled. Like the brother said, that was the way that they vowed. But you had different vows. This was a very high vow for a man to put his hand under the thigh. Even Jacob did that with Joseph. Right? Let me get that. Let me just type it in for sake of time. Right? That's in Genesis, I believe 48. Right? Or 47. Let me get this actual account. Genesis chapter 47 and 29. Check this out. And the time drew nigh that Israel must die. And he called Joseph and said unto him, if now I have found grace in thy sight, put, I pray thee, thy hand under my thigh, and deal kindly and truly with me. Bury me not, I pray thee, in Egypt. So when you had that hand under the thigh, that was you was dead serious. See, Jake, people, we had a guy we was teaching who said he was Yahushua. He wanted the pinky promise. That's what Jake do, pinky promise. Right? Or a shake on it. Right? Or Jake, kids, they spit in each other's hand and there's always, and they'll shake hands. Right? Or the so-called white man, he'll cut with blood and then he'll put your name here in blood. There's always a physical sign of an oath. And we didn't do cutting your hand with blood. We didn't spit in our hand and shake it. We didn't pinky promise. We didn't cross our fingers, knock on wood, do all of these damn abominable idolatries, man. Right? This is what our forefathers did. Right? Put, I pray thee, thy hand under my thigh, and deal kindly and truly with me, and bury me not, I pray thee, in Egypt. Right? So it's fitting. Don't bury me in Egypt. Bury me next to Leah, or bury me with Abraham and Sarah and with Isaac and Rebekah. Right? That's how it goes right there, man. Like the brother said, Jake say, put it on my mama. Hey, Jake, they'll grab under their thigh, but they'll grab what? I believe when you go into this word, Jake, Jake in the streets, they'll grab their stuff and they pull their pants up and they always, dealing with that, man, because that means I'm not playing. Right? When Jake pull their pants up or they grab their crotch or do something like in the streets, that means they're not playing around, man. So it's a serious deal. Jake still do that now, but they do it in wickedness. Now, when you go into that word, let me see, online etymology. Let me pull this up. Right? Let me pull this up. This is like brother said, I put that on everything I love. Jake say all that stuff, man. Put this on my son, on my dead grandmother's grave. Put this on my son's son. And they'll usually grab their junk, man, or grab under their thigh or do God knows what. Let me get this. Testify. Right? I believe when you go into etymology of this word, let's see. Okay, testify, bear witness, bear, show, call to witness, testis, and witness, to make, to set, to put, right? I may go more into it, but I'm gonna pull this out in due time, right? Bear with me 1 second. Let me actually see if this is what I want to go into, right? So this is how things were done in the ancient world, man. Life was a lot different. Right? Life was a lot different back in the ancient world. Now check this out, right? That is what I want. So now the word testify, right? It says to give a legal testimony, affirm the truth. So when somebody gives a testimony or they testify, they're dead serious. It's no games. It's no joking. There's no playing around. There's no madness. That's what the word testify means. You're affirming the truth, right? Now check this out. From Anglo-French testifier, testificare, called a witness. From testis, right? See testament. Now, when you go, right, you go into this word right here, it goes back to the same word testis, right? It goes back to the exact same word testis. So testis, testimony, it all goes back to putting your hand under that thigh, right? Goes back to the word testis or witness, right? Because you're making an oath. That's why it has a lot of brothers, they don't know what these words mean, right? So that hand under your thigh is for a testimony or for an oath to make a witness. Look at this. From a Latin word to suppose swearing in. So it's when you make an oath. That's why Abraham said, put, I pray thee, thy hand under my thigh, because he was making an oath. That's under your thigh. That's why Jacob told, and a lot of brothers may get offended at this. Oh, what is that about? Well, brother, this is the ancient world. You know, and their minds were different. They weren't corrupted by the vanities of this world. And that's why Jacob told Joseph, put thy hand under my thigh. You're going to make a testimony, make an oath. Don't bury me in Egypt. So now you know what these words mean. Testes, testimony, a testament, etymologically, they all mean the same thing. They go back to the word oath. Testicle goes back to the word oath. Testament, testimony goes back to the word oath. That's why it's under your thigh, because it's about an oath. It's about a promise when you swear in, you know? So like I said, things were a lot different in the ancient world. And a lot of brothers wouldn't make it, man. You know, a lot of brothers wouldn't make it. A lot of sisters wouldn't make it. Even life amongst women was different, man. Children being raised up was different. So you got to go into that history to see how things were done. Right, so let me read this again. Genesis chapter 29 to 13. And it can't, remember, we're a peculiar people, right? Let me get that in Deuteronomy 14. So how we move is according to the Most High, right? The Most High gave us these laws, these customs, these statutes, right? Deuteronomy chapter 14 and 2. For thou art an holy people unto the Lord thy God. So Jake didn't say, put it on my mama. You couldn't swear and use the name of the Lord in vain, right? There are certain things you have to do, certain covenants, certain ceremonial rites that had to be done. There was no, I promise I'm going to do this. When did Abraham, or when can a man promise anything? Only the Most High can do these things, man. Because the Most High, he runs this entire kingdom of men. I can't promise my woman. Who am I? That's what we say, Lord willing, or Abaratazah. Or Yahweh Bashmi Abashai Abaratazah, which is Lord willing. Lord willing, we can do this. So Lord willing, this can happen. Or Lord willing, this can get done. You know? So let's read this. For thou art an holy people unto the Lord thy God, and the Lord hath chosen thee to be a peculiar people. So certain things we do is different. We're peculiar, man. Right? We serve an invisible God. Other nations have idols. Right? We walk different. We move different. We think different. Our customs are different. Our ancient heritage is different. How we ate was different. Everything we do now in America, we've been destroyed, man. So we don't know too much. Eating with fork and knife, and you're cutting and you put your napkin. And that's not how we ate in the ancient world. You didn't put your little napkin on and tie it around your neck and lay your napkin down, and you unroll and you have your salad fork, and then you have your soup spoon and your steak knife and your butter knife. No, we ate with our hands. We had to look saw. We did things different. So, Jake, if you were to take a time machine and go back to 2000 BC, you better figure stuff out quick, man, or they're going to look at you. They might stone you and cast you out. They were rougher back then, man. Jake think they're rough now. Go back to 2000 BC and you'll land there and you'll say something crazy and you get a rock to your head, huh? They were rougher back, and they were men back then. And they wasn't emotional. And they were wiser. And had more common sense and understanding. right? So, Jake, you go back 2000 BC, you better know what's going on, man, or you're going to be caught out there, especially Eve. God, Lord forbid, the average so-called Black, Hispanic, and Native American woman, right? Oh, my gosh. You take care and put her in 2000 BC, it's lights out, right? They're gonna cut her down. Let Eve from the club, you get her from the club Friday night, right? And the chariot come and pick her up and drop her off 2000 BC with what she wears and how she looks now, with them nasty eyelashes that do this, right? And that weave. Let Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah see you with that weave and that perm. They're going to be talking about you in the Hebrew. You're not going to know what they're saying because they speak Hebrew, right? They're going to be getting on you and they're going to be mad. Then they're going to go in the tent and call their husbands, and their husbands, they're going to come out and they're going to take care of you, man. They're going to get rid of you. But let's read on. So we're a peculiar people. Every custom we have is different. And we don't really know our customs because we've been Americanized. We don't know how we used to sit, how we used to speak, what different we have the Bible, but being there in real time is different. So we're a peculiar people. Holy kisses, hand under the thigh, how we married our wives, how we dealt with our children. It's all peculiar. It's different, right? To be a peculiar people unto himself above all the nations that are upon the earth, right? So let's go back to Genesis 29. Genesis chapter 29 and 14. So Jacob met Laban. They met each other. They embraced one another. Now in verse 14, and Laban said to him, surely thou art my bone and my flesh. And he abode with him a space of a month. So bone and flesh, it means we're related, right? That's what bone and flesh means, like in 2 Samuel. So Laban said, hey, we're blood brothers, man. That's what Jake say now, right? But back in the ancient times, they'll say, thou art my bone and my flesh, right? 2 Samuel 5 and 1. Then all the tribes of Israel then came all the tribes of Israel to David and to Hebron and saying, behold, let me read it again. Then came all the tribes of Israel to David unto Hebron and spake, saying, behold, we are thy bone and thy flesh. So being bone and flesh means we are related by blood, right? We are related by blood. This is what Laban said to him. Surely thou art my bone and my flesh. And he abode with him the space of a month. So he lived with him for about a month. And Laban said unto Jacob, because thou art my brother, shouldest thou therefore serve me for naught? Tell me, what shall thy wages be? Meaning, look, if Laban saw Jacob kind of helping out, doing things around the house. He said, let me pay you for it, right? What do you want to get paid? Jacob might have been kind of dealing with the flocks or, moving some stuff around or gathering wood. And Laban saw him. He said, look, we brothers, man. I'm not just going to let you do this stuff around the house for free, right? What do you want? I'll pay you for these services that you do. What shall thy wages be? Right? And we had laws on how to deal with that. Back in the ancient world, we had laws on servants, laws on how long you can employ a servant, how you would pay a servant. All of that stuff is in Exodus 21, right? Deuteronomy, the 15th chapter. All right, let me actually get an account of that on how you're supposed to deal with your servant, right? Let's go to Exodus. I believe I want chapter 21, right? Let's go to Exodus chapter 21, right? This is Exodus chapter 21 and I'm going to start at 1. Now these are the judgments which thou shalt set before them. If thou buy a Hebrew servant, 6 years he shall serve, and in the 7th he shall go out free for nothing. So you can actually buy a Hebrew servant, right? But it wasn't like the so-called white man slavery, right? It wasn't you buy this guy cheap and you could rape him, you could butt break him, you can abuse him, you can lynch him, you can kill him, you can murder him, you can sell his children. See, the so-called white man is a damn devil, man. A hypocrite, man. Okay, this is Christianity. And even if, slavery, because slavery is something that's always going to be on the earth, right? But there are laws on how to deal with slaves. But chiefly for the Israelites, on how to deal with slaves as in the heathen, and did with your brother who was a servant, right? Or your brother, which is essentially like an indentured servant, right? You have indentured servitude. So it's like if you got Jake, they may own a barbershop, right? And you may rent out a chair, or you may sweep up the hair, or do whatever, man, right? And you are employed underneath your brother. They didn't have an HR department. They didn't have 2 weeks paid vacation. Okay, you can build up your PTO. You get 5 hours of PTO every 2 weeks, and then you get 3 sick days, and no call outs, right? No, you have straight up, you work for me, and whatever we work out in between, and look, it is what it is, right? So you haven't worked 6 years. In the 7th year, you should go out free. When did the so-called white man do that? Wasn't he buying Hebrews? When did he let us go in the 7th year? He never did that. If he came in by himself, he should go out by himself. If he were married, then his wife should go out with him. So if him and his woman, he went to his woman and said, look, baby, look, we're going to have to work. I know this guy, he got this field. All we got to do is, gather apples and sycamore fruit, maybe for 7 years, and, we'll be all right. So him and his woman, she'll say, okay, Khan, Lord, right? Khan, not a one. And they'll go and they'll work for this guy. And after they build up their funds and save up that money, both of them, the husband and wife, they will leave together. If his master have given him a wife, and she hath borne him sons or daughters, the wife and her children shall be her masters, and he shall go out by himself. Right? And you'll read about that in Genesis 31, when Laban said, these children are mine, my daughters are mine. Right? So your master could give you a wife. You could say, look, you can have my daughter, or you could have so-and-so. But if you want to stay, you could keep them. But if you want to leave, they still belong to me. And if the servant shall plainly say, I love my master, my wife, and my children, I will not go out free. Then his master shall bring him unto the judges. He shall also bring him to the door, unto the doorpost, or unto the doorpost, Salakia. And his master shall bore his ear through with an awl, and he shall serve him forever. So the man might say, look, I like working here. I know certain Jakes, they, whether they like it or not, they work at jobs for 30 years. Man, I've been here 25 years. I've been here 50 years. And they're always boasting about it. How long they been at that plantation. Man, I've been here 25 years. I've been here 17 years. Jake, you always do that, man. Nobody gives a damn how long you been working for the so-called white man. But Jake, they may, in the ancient world, they might like working for their brother. Your brother might treat you well. Your brother may look out for you. And you and him may get along. Y'all may become friends. But y'all still have that respect about, hey, look, he's still this is still his house. He's allowing me to stay here. I don't want to leave, man. Life is good here. So this guy, he would take your ear and take an awl and bore your ear through with the awl. And that would be a sign that you belong to this man forever. Right? So those are particular laws, and it goes deeper into that, about how you dealt with brothers that worked for you, an employee, if you can understand. Right? So let's go back to Genesis. And how you deal with your brothers different than how you would deal with a heathen. All right, Genesis chapter 29 to 15. And Laban said unto Jacob, because thou art my brother, shouldest thou therefore serve me for naught? Tell me, what shall thy wages be? And Laban had 2 daughters, or Laban had 2 daughters. The name of the elder was Leah, and the name of the younger was Rachel. Leah was tender-eyed, but Rachel was beautiful and well-favored. And Jacob loved Rachel and said, I will serve thee 7 years for Rachel, thy younger daughter. So Jacob loved Rachel, man. I will work for you for 7 years. How many brothers would do that, man? Right? If you brothers that are married, would you work? If you had to go back and the Most High say, look, okay, you got to work for this man for 7 years. Would you do it? Well, you would have no choice, right? If that's what the father wanted, you had to do it. Rather the father was mean, or rather he was a nice guy. If that's what it took to get that daughter, you would do it. Now you have to weigh that and say, look, I don't know about that, man. Is it really worth it? And a man will have to make that decision. Look, is it really worth it? Is she really worth working 7 years for? Right? And that's what you call a dowry, which we brought out in time past. A dowry is really a price that you pay for your woman. You know? So that's something. That's how you got your woman. You didn't get your woman off of Tinder back in the ancient world. You didn't go on Instagram. Well, I'm shooting my shot. That's what Jake said. I'm shooting my shot. There was no shooting my shot. Jacob didn't roll up on Rachel and say, hey, look, you know, and said so-and-so, kind of walked around her, you know, doing this. He didn't do none of that. He didn't have these nigga tendencies because he knew the father gave the daughter away into marriage. He didn't make a move on her, man. And she didn't make a move on him. You know? Everything was done in order. Right? Let's pull up a dowry. I want to go to the definition of a dowry so brothers can understand what a dowry is. All right? So a dowry, which we'll pull precepts, money, goods, or estate, which a woman brings her husband, right definition, right? And they went off with this one because really a woman can't bring an inheritance, but it's really about what a man pays for his woman, right? From the Latin dotare, to endow or portion. So this is what you want to focus on. It's from the Latin dotare, which means to endow or portion. So really the father will go to the other father, or a man will go to the father and say, look, I like you, I want to marry your daughter, right? I saw your daughter, she's a very, very beautiful woman to behold. The Lord is with her. She's righteous. I've been knowing you for a long time. Look, I want to marry your daughter. You have to actually go to the father and say, I want to marry your daughter. Jake, you can't do that now. You don't have that in you, man. You're sliding DMs. You're freaking off. You're sending inappropriate pictures. You're sex talking on the phone. Oh, what would you do if I was there? Or, oh, I can't hear you. Jake, you're doing God knows what, man. You wouldn't last in the ancient world because you're off, man. You don't have no discipline and no integrity, man. See, men were men back then, and they would go to another man and say, look, I want to buy her. And he would say, the price is 7 years. And you would say, that's perfect. And you would gird up your sleeves and your loins and start getting in that field, chopping down trees. Year by year, you wasn't sneaking in there, dealing with her. I'm going to just climb through the window. Jake, they pull up to their damn woman house with that big speaker system. The father sleeps somewhere in the bedroom because he was working all day. Then this guy pulls up with the speaker system playing Jodeci, man. Right? Playing Jodeci, and he's sitting up there or whatever he's playing, man. Throwing rocks at the window. Right? Right? Keisha. Hey, yo, Keisha. Hey, yo. Right? Throwing rocks at Keisha, man. Keisha opens up the window and he's playing damn Jodeci, man. And he turns it up. And she says, boy, stop. And then he say, can I come up? And then she said, you got to be quiet. So she sneak and run downstairs and unlock the back door. And he turned the radio down, Then he sneak upstairs to Keisha's room. And now Keisha's pregnant in her father's house. That's not how things were done, bro. Right? I want to get this precept in the book of Judges. Right? Let's go to Judges, the 14th chapter. Right? Let's go to Judges chapter 14. The Lord is not dealing with Jodeci and a damn what's the word I'm looking for, man? When you serenade a woman, man. There was no serenade a woman back in the ancient world. Right? Judges chapter 14 and verse 1. And Samson went down to Timnath and saw a woman in Timnath of the daughter of the Philistines. And he came up and told his father and his mother and said, I have seen a woman in Timnath of the daughter of the daughters of the Philistines. Now therefore get her for me to wife. So he knew how things were supposed to be done. Samson knew that. He saw this woman, went back to his father and his mother, said, bring this woman for me to wife. Right? That's just how it was done in the ancient world. Right? So let's go back to Genesis 29. And he had to serve 7 years. That's what Jacob did. Now, if you wanted to marry a daughter, yeah, you could serve 7 years. Right? Or you would have to pay a price, or you have to be some type of valiant warrior. Right? There are different ways that you can acquire that woman. You know, I want to get this in Genesis 34. Right? Let's go to Genesis, the 34th chapter. This is Genesis chapter 34 and verse, let's see. So like I want to get this. I believe that's verse. Bear with me. Right? He said, give me ever so much dowry. Okay, here's what I want. So Salaki, Genesis chapter 34 and 11. So this is after Shechem took Dinah and defiled her. Right? Now Shechem was a Canaanite. And Dinah was an Israelite, right? And Shechem said unto her father and unto her brethren, let me find grace in your eyes, and what ye shall say unto me, I will give. Ask me never so much dowry and gift, and I will give according as ye shall say unto me, but give me the damsel to wife. Right? So you have to pay that dowry. He said, look, you name the price, I'll pay it. Right? Name the price, I'll pay whatever I have to pay to get this woman. You know? So, I mean, that's how it was done, right? It's not that deep. You have to pay for your woman. When you go to the book of 1 Samuel, I believe that's 1 Samuel, the 18th chapter. I have to get this actual account, right? Let's go to 1 Samuel. 1 Samuel chapter 18 and verse 25. And Saul said, thus shall ye say to David, the king desireth not any dowry, but 100 foreskins of the Philistines to be avenged of the king's enemies. But Saul thought to make David fall by the hand of the Philistines. So King Saul didn't want physical money. He didn't want a gift. And he didn't want David to work for him 7 years, because David already worked for him being in his army. So what was left for David, which was a custom back in the ancient world, even Caleb did that, right? That if a man wanted to marry a daughter, you had to show yourself a man and actually kill these heathen, huh? You had to do some valiant warlike act. And then a father might look at you and say, yeah, that's a man of war, right? That's a man who my daughter could marry, right? He's going to raise his sons and sons, and he's going to do A, B, and C. So a man could actually receive a mission from the father to do a valiant act and perform a valiant task, rather than killing a heathen or doing whatever the father wanted them to do. And a son, if he agreed to it and did it, the father would say, wow, you're a mighty man, right? Here, you can have my daughter, right? And we'll give you another account of that. We read in, we mentioned in Judges. So again, there was no, it's lucky, I'm tripping, right? There was no going on Twitter and Facebook and shooting your shot and sending some pictures and, you know, do you like this one? Do you like that one? Right? Or whatever, man. Right? That's going on in this wicked system. This is the book of Judges, chapter 1 and verse, check this out, and 12. And Caleb, now we know Caleb was righteous. And Caleb said, he that smiteth Kirjath Sepher and taketh it, to him will I give Akash, my daughter, to wife. You see that? So Caleb said, if you could do this mighty, mighty act and take this land and smite these heathen, you could have my daughter. You know? So men, like I said, men were different. Customs were different. How marriage was done was different. It reads, and Othniel, the son of Kenaz, Caleb's younger brother, took it, and he gave him Akash, his daughter, to wife. Right? So these are things were done in the ancient world. And Jacob didn't have to slay a mighty man. Jacob didn't have to pay a physical dowry. Jacob had to do what? Work for Laban 7 years. Right? Let's read on. Right? Genesis chapter 29 and verse 18. And Jacob loved Rachel and said, I will serve thee 7 years for Rachel, thy younger daughter. And Laban said, it is better that I give her to thee than that I should give her to another man. Abide with me. And Jacob served 7 years for Rachel, and they seemed unto him but for a few days, for the love he had to her. Right? So that time was flying, man. Right? Jacob was in love. You know, he wanted Rachel. So those 7 years, they went by quick. And you know that happens, man. You know, even when you growing up, or you in certain schools, or you in college, or you maybe at a job, and time flies, man. You know, especially if you into something. If you're really into something, you're not really thinking about, oh boy, I'm staring at the clock. Oh boy, when do I have to leave? No, time flies, man, when you're into something. So he was so into his woman, or his potential woman, those 7 years, I mean, they went by swiftly. And Jacob said unto Laban, give me my wife, for my days are fulfilled, that I may go in unto her. Right? So he was just straight up, hey, where's my woman, man? Been waiting 7 years. I want to go in unto her. And Laban gathered together all the men of the place and made a feast. And it came to pass in the evening that he took Leah, his daughter, and brought her to him, and he went in unto her. Right? Now, they didn't really, there's no account of them signing instruments of covenants. There's no account of them having a great wedding ceremony for 14 days. You know, certain things, it all depends. You know, a lot of brothers say you have to have this, you have to have that. You don't, there's no law where you have to have it. It all depends on how the fathers want to do it. Right? At the end of the day, once they lay down together, once you have sex, then that consummates the marriage. Everything else is additional. And most of the times it's profitable to have. It's profitable to have instruments of covenant. It's profitable to have things in writing. It's profitable to have a wedding ceremony for 14 days, right? It's profitable for these things. Why not have them? But if you don't have them, does that mean that your marriage is null and void? No. Those are, there's a word I'm looking for, additions. There's another word I'm thinking about, but those are additional things. You know, so they just had a feast, and he said, here, you got a daughter, and they dealt with her. It reads, and Laban gave unto his daughter Leah Zilpah, his maid, for a handmaid. And it came to pass in the morning, behold, it was Leah. And he said to Laban, what is this thou hast done unto me? Did not I serve thee for Rachel? Wherefore then hast thou beguiled me? And Laban, so Jacob got supplanted, right? But we'll find out who gets the last supplanting. And Laban said, it must not be so done in our country to give the younger before the firstborn. And Laban could have said that straight up. He had this man work for 7 years. Imagine that. You work for 7 years, and then a so-called white man says, well, look, you know, we really pay you, you know, you're really not going to get paid. Or I won't even do 7 years. You work, you know, you 3 weeks in a hole, and then after that third week or fourth week, you expecting that paycheck. He says, look, you know, really, you got to work for 3 months, and then we'll pay you. Hey, Jake could lose their mind, man. You know how you start that job, that first week, you train, you don't get paid, and you might have came in late in the pay period on the payroll, and you got to wait those 3 weeks in the hole. It might be another week, or depending on what's going on. Imagine being in that situation, man. You're paying bills, trying to figure out what's going on. And then Esau tell you, hey, look, it's really 2 months. Right? We don't do that here. Right? Oh, you didn't read the pamphlet? Or you didn't read your book? You didn't talk to HR? Hey, Jake, still fight that guy, man. They'll fight that guy. They'll lose it. You working for 6 weeks and they'll lose their mind. And that's what Laban did, because Laban was really always a covetous man. He was always about himself and money, man. And the Most High kind of give you a glimpse and a foreshadowing of the mentality of Laban and how he was a covetous off man in Genesis 24. So all the way back during the time of Abraham and Isaac, you can see the mentality and the spirit that Laban had, right? And I'm going to show you. Let's go to Genesis chapter 24 and 28, right? So the servant met Rebekah. Rebekah's about to let her family know what the servant told her. And the damsel ran and told them of her mother's house these things. And Rebekah had a brother, and his name was Laban. And Laban ran out into the man into the well. And it came to pass when he saw the earrings and the bracelet. So he's looking at money. His eyes are lighting up, like even them damn cartoons that show the damn money sign. And he's thinking, this dude got money, man. I gotta look, let's get to know this guy. Right? When he saw the earrings and bracelets upon his sister's hands, and when he heard the words of Rebekah's sister saying, thus spake the man unto me, that he came unto the man, and behold, he stood by the camels at the well, and he said, come in, thou blessed of the Lord, wherefore standest thou without? For I prepared the house and room for the camels. Right? And he necessarily didn't really do all this, man. Right? But that's equivalent to Jake see a guy, hey, look, hey, man, where you been at, man? You see a guy with a bunch of chains on, he take his money out. Hey, brother, come on, brother, why you kicking with me, man? Where you been at? Is that, hey, Tony, right? And then Tony kind of looking at you, do you know me? Hey, Tony, remember me from the 5th grade? Little Mike, you know Little Mike. And Tony like, Little Mike. Hey, Tony, that's what Laban was doing, man. Being a damn nigga, man. Just lusting after earrings, gold, and bracelets. Someone come in, thou blessed of the Lord. Like I said, you can't read this like a so-called white man, man. You got to know our people. You know our people, and you see how they act, man. Come in, thou blessed of the Lord. Wherefore standest thou without, man? Now, what are you doing out here? Right? Why are you waiting outside, man? Come on inside. I got a house for you. I got stuff for your camels. Right? So this man Laban was off. So the Lord kind of give you an inside glimpse of what that man was about. So now you see him putting it into play in Genesis 29, finessing and supplanting Jacob. Right? So Genesis 29 and 26. And Laban said, it must not be so done in our country, to give the younger before the firstborn. Fulfill her week, and we will give thee this also for the service which thou shalt serve with me yet 7 other years. So Jacob was like, God damn, I gotta work 7 more years. Oh my God, man, 7 more years. Imagine that, man. You gotta work double time. Your boss don't give you your paycheck. So if you want this paycheck, you better work 2 more weeks. Right? A straight up and down. No rhyme or reason. I don't care what you're talking about. Yeah, you was supposed to get paid today, but guess what? You got to work 2 more weeks, and then you'll get paid. I'll see you out in the warehouse, man. That's oppression. And Jacob did so and fulfilled her week, and he gave him Rachel, his daughter, to wife also. And Laban gave to Rachel, his daughter Bilhah, his handmaid, to be her maid. And he went in also unto Rachel, and he loved also Rachel more than Leah, and served with him yet 7 other years. And when the Lord saw that Leah was hated, he opened her womb, but Rachel was barren. Right? And Leah conceived and bare a son, and she called his name Reuben, which is Rehoboam in the Hebrew, which means behold a son. That's what the word Reuben means. Each one of the sons of Israel, all right? Let's see, pull up the 12 tribes. Right? Each one of the sons of Israel, their names have a meaning. Right? Let's pull this up. So, back in the ancient world, we didn't name our children Rel, Keisha, Dejanique, Tammy, Latoya, Rodney, Jamal, right? T, Malika. We had ancient names. So Judah, that name means something. Benjamin, that name means something. Each one of the sons that Rachel, Leah, and the handmaids had, they all had Hebrew names, right? Judah is Yahweh. You understand, which means praise Yahweh. Or you could say Thawada Yahweh or praise Yahweh. And we loosely translated the praise of Yahweh. Benjamin, Banyamin, which means son of the right, right? And we'll go into this. And Benjamin means son of the right because he's really, on a deeper level, the son of the Most High, but he's also the son of a righteous man, Israel, right? Levi means lawyer, because Leah, as we read on, she'll say, look, now will my husband be joined unto me because I have borne him another son, but ultimately because those sons of Levi, they're joined unto the Most High, right? Ephraim, which means to be fruitful. You understand? You have, and that's what Joseph had, right? Joseph's son was Ephraim because the Most High made him fruitful because that was his second son he had in Egypt. You have Manasseh, right? Or Manasseh, which means forget, because the Lord had Joseph forget the affliction he had because he gave him a wife and children in Egypt. Shemaiwan or Simeon, right, in the Hebrew, right, which means the Most High hears and the Most High heard, because the Most High heard of what Leah was dealing with and he opened up her womb, right? Zebulun, right, in the Hebrew, which is Zebulun, which means haven, right, or dwelling place. You understand? She said, now will my husband dwell with me, right, or be with me. Gad, right, which means troop, right? She said, behold, a troop cometh, because she was building up an army and had son after son and son after son, right? Our bond, which means behold, a son, right? We just read that. Ashar or Asher, which means happy. She said, the Lord hath made me happy, paraphrase it, because I have born a son. Like I said, we'll touch on all of this. Issachar, right, which means he is hired. Yashashakar, right, he is hired, because when this son was born, Jacob was hired, for mandrakes. Naphtalium, right, which means I'm having a brain. It's like I can't recall it, but we'll read it as we go into it, man. Wrestling, that's what it means, wrestle or strive, right? So it means to wrestle or strive, all right? So we're going to go into each one of these sons as we read in Genesis chapter 29 on down, right? And this word, what tribe you come from, this is what that name means, man. So let's go back into this, right? Genesis chapter 29 and verse 32. And Leah conceived and bare a son, and she called his name Reuben, for she said, surely Yahweh hath looked upon my affliction. Now, therefore, my husband will love me. So Rehoboam means look, a son. That's what she said, the Lord hath looked upon my affliction. And she conceived again and bare a son and said, behold, because the Lord hath heard that I was hated, he hath therefore given me this son also. And she called his name Simeon, because that name means being heard. See that the Lord hath heard. And she conceived again and bare a son and said, now this time will my husband be joined unto me. That's what Levi means, a lawyer. But remember, ultimately, it's because the sons of Levi are joined to the Most High because they're the priest. All right. But ultimately, Leah, she perceived that the Most High would join her husband unto her, man, because she gave him 3 sons. Therefore was his name called Levi. And she conceived again and bare a son, and said, now this time will my husband be joined unto me. It's like, I want verse 35. And she conceived again and bare a son, and she said, now will I praise Yahweh. Therefore she called his name Judah and left bearing. So she said, now I'm going to praise Yahweh. This is where the word Judah comes from. Right? So that shows you that Judah, it means the praise of Yahweh. All right, let's move on. That's what each one of those sons mean. And it was a woman esteemed having children back in the ancient world, which we'll read as a high thing. And we'll see that Genesis chapter 30 and 1. And when Rachel saw that she bare Jacob no children, Rachel envied her sister and said unto Jacob, give me children or else I die. So she wanted children so bad. She said, look, I'm going to die. Now, we know that's not the average mentality of the average so-called Black, Hispanic, or Native American woman. They're doing all it takes not to have children, right? They're, use his word carefully, they're getting rid of their child while it's in the womb. You see, you can't even say certain words now. So they're getting rid of their child in the womb. They're doing the plan B, all manner of contraceptives. And I mean, they're doing everything it takes not to get a child. I want to go, I don't want to get too graphic. You know, they're dealing with a man and they get mad when a man doesn't do a particular thing, right? You're an adult, right? You know what I'm talking about. I don't have to go in depth into it. You know, they're dealing with 5 guys and one guy, you know, he doesn't do what she wants and now she's getting mad. I want a pregnancy test. Go get me one. And they mad, they pregnant, they crying in the bathroom, and they throw the pregnancy test in the trash can, and then they get on their phone and they start looking up clinics, how to sell their body for cash and cheap dough so they can go to their enemy and open up their legs and have them dig inside of you and pull out your firstborn son and throw him in the trash can, and then take his embryos and seeds and sell them to the elites for $500,000 a gram. That's what Eve is about, bro. You know? Let's go to let's get an account of that. Let's go to 1 Samuel. Right? 1 Samuel, the 1st chapter. So like I said, you know, things were a lot different in those times, man. 1 Samuel chapter 1 and 2. And he had 2 wives, right? That's Elkanah. The name of the one was Hannah, and the name of the other Peninnah. And Peninnah had children, but Hannah had no children. And this man went up out of his city yearly to worship to sacrifice unto the Lord of hosts in Shiloh, and the 2 sons of Eli, Hophni and Phinehas, the priests of the Lord, were there. Slakia. And when the time that Elkanah offered, he gave to Peninnah his wife and to all her sons and daughters portions. But unto Hannah he gave a worthy portion, for he loved Hannah, but the Lord had shut up her womb. So any woman that doesn't have children, it's because the Most High shut your womb. And you know, a woman may say, I can't get pregnant. I don't know what to do. Then they go to the so-called white man, or they get a surrogate mother. You know, surrogate mothers, I think the average price, people are paying like $30,000, and they'll get a white woman to be the surrogate mother. Let me see this. Right, so Salaki for the typing. Right, but let me pull this up. Look at this. The average cost of surrogacy. So surrogacy is, okay, your woman, which our foremothers did, right? But now Eve, you know, or that can't get, the point of the matter is Eve that can't get pregnant, they don't understand it's from the Most High. And they'll go to any nation they'll go to a white woman, right? Or they'll go to they'll go to God knows what, man. So surrogacy is $90,000 to $130,000, right? Surrogacy is when you have another woman bear your child. Rather, it's or rather that man just deals with her, which was done, right? Sarah did it with Hagar. Rachel, Leah, they did it with their handmaids. It's done in the ancient world. Surrogacy is $90,000. You know? Now, I want to see, let me see this real quick. That's surrogacy. So I want to make sure I'm pronouncing this right. You have something called in vitro fertilization, right? And this is what the so-called white man does, man. Right? You can't bear children, then they'll go to Esau. They'll go to the sorcerer, right? They'll go to the sorcerer. In vitro fertilization is a process of fertilization where an egg is combined with sperm in vitro. The process involves monitoring and stimulating a woman's ovulatory process, removing an ovum or ova from her ovaries and letting sperm fertilize them in a culture medium in the laboratory. Wouldn't it the Most High say, okay, look, all right, you can't get pregnant. I shut your womb. Go to the so-called white man. We're going to take your egg out. We're going to have this guy go into this room, read a magazine, come out with a jar of his seed, and I'm going to take it. I'm Esau. This is just evil. And he takes Jake's seed, and he got egg, and he got him on a petri dish. He put his goggles on, he scrubbing, he getting into it, and he's sweating, and he just started making stuff happen. That's off, right? We're not dealing with the so-called white man sorcery, man. You know? Look at this. Madness. All right? They take and they put on a dish, and they're looking under the microscope, and they're just getting their rocks off, man. Assisted reproduction. Now that's not in the Bible, man. Right? That's not in the Bible. She said, give me children or else I die. Right? The Lord shut up Hannah's womb. The Lord can shut up your womb or he can open your womb. And I know certain brothers, they'll ask me, look, is it off to use this? Is it off to use that? You know, my woman not pregnant. What do I do? And what brothers, it's up to the Most High. It's up to Yahweh Bashem Yahushua. Brother said, I don't really deal with a woman like that. You know, I was at the so-called workplace. This quick story. You know, this guy I work with, he said, you know, his woman in surgery. I said, oh, for what? She said she getting her tubes tied, right? And then he said he was about to get a vasectomy, right? I believe that's what it is. He was going to get a vasectomy. When they cut your I believe it's your vas deferens or a particular part and your testicle area. So you can't bear children anymore. And I told him, hey, look, that's off. He said, well, he said, look, the Most High, he said, the Lord gave me a choice, and that's what I choose. So, you know, they're not going to make it, man. You know, they're not going to make it at the end of the day. And now she's having all these complications, and you know, he's telling me now that she's having brain problems and she's having strokes and she's bleeding internally. And he said, look, we could just untie it and tie it back up. He said, that's why I want her to do that. We get tie the tubes up, and when we feel like it, we'll just untie it. The Lord never said go to the so-called white man and let him just do what you want to do. Okay, I'm going to tie it up. And then you pull the string, then it unties. That's evil. Let's go to Psalm chapter 127. Right? Psalm chapter 127. You know, children really are a sign of strength. I saw on Instagram not too long ago, this man and his woman, they had 17 children. You know, she was pregnant, I believe, 16 years out of her life. No, I think it was 16 of the past 19 years. You may have seen it, right? She was pregnant. She had like 16 plus kids, man. And that's a beautiful thing. That's why she said, behold, a troop cometh. Because that's an army right there, man. Psalm chapter 127 and verse 3. Lo, children are an heritage of the Lord, and the fruit of the womb is his reward. As arrows are in the hand of a mighty man, so are children of the youth. So that's a heritage and the blessing of the Most High. And Rachel knew that. That's why she said, give me children or else I die. Genesis 30 and 2. And Jacob's anger was kindled against Rachel. And the so-called white man, going back to this, I only touched on two things that he does. He has in vitro fertilization. He has surrogacy with other nations. He has sperm banks. He has cloning processes. He'll clone you. He'll freeze your eggs in the laboratory. He has all of this evil, man. And really, Esau made that for himself. Because, Jake, you have children like that, right? You look at your woman and she's pregnant, huh? Esau, he has to go through great lengths and go through great extremities to finally get his woman pregnant. And I'm sure brothers know this. Let's see. Right? Let's see. Slovakia. The mortality rate. Right? White deaths exceed births in the majority of U.S. states. Fewer births than deaths among whites. Why white Americans are dying faster than they're being born. And a third of the U.S., more white people are dying than being born. Why are there more deaths than births amongst whites? White Americans are dying faster than being born, and we can go on and on and on. So there are more Edomites dying than that's actually being born. So that's why you don't have sperm banks in the hood. You don't got the church, then a liquor store, then a sperm bank. Then you got the weed dispensary store, you got the gas station, you got the damn Chinese spot, you got Yum Yums selling you fried chicken and lake trout. You got the hair salon, maybe you got a laundromat, right? You might have, Little Caesars or like a whatever little store you got, And then you got the sperm bank and the cloning center where you get a clone. And then you have the surrogacy laboratory and the in vitro fertilization building. They don't have that in the hood, man. They have that in the so-called white man's way of town, in his area. And that's where they go after work. When you're not looking at these Edomites, and they're going to these places, man. And you go there, it's nothing but the so-called white man there. And that sticky, nasty room. Crying that they can't have children. Let me get this in Psalms chapter 119. Psalms chapter 109. Right? The Lord said he made them small among the heathen. Thou art greatly despised. Psalms chapter 109 and verse 12. Let there be none to extend mercy unto him, neither let there be any to favor his fatherless children. Let his posterity be cut off, and in the generation following, let their name be blotted out. So the Lord is cutting off the posterity of the so-called white man, right? Cutting off his seed. And our foremothers, there was a time when they were even willing to allow their handmaid, right, to lay with their husband just to have children in their name. What Eve would do that now, right? Let's take a survey, right? We'll go out one day, right, and do a survey and ask the average so-called Black, Hispanic, or Native American woman, if you couldn't get pregnant, would you let your homegirl, right, or your friend lay with your husband, or she might own a business, she might have employees under her. Would you let your employees, your homegirl, whatever, lay with your husband so he can get her pregnant, and she'll bear children by you? Now, let's ask 1,000 so-called Black, Hispanic, and Native American women, How many women are going to say, yes, that's beautiful. That's what Yahweh Basham would want. Thy will be done. Right? It is the Lord. Let him do with what seemeth good. They're not saying that, man. They're not doing that. Eve is fighting Eve over, man. You know, who's that in your inbox? You talking to Keisha again? Right? You sleep, they in your phone, or they freaking off. So, you know, even our foremothers, they were a lot different back in the ancient world, man. They were different. Genesis 30:2. And Jacob's anger was kindled against Rachel, and he said, am I in the Most High's stead, who hath withheld from thee the fruit of the womb? And look, I'm not the Most High. Only the Most High open up your womb. We can do this all day, but it's up to the Lord to open up your womb. Right? So, brothers, you know, I'll digress. And she said, behold, my maid Bilhah, go in unto her, and she shall bear upon my knees, that I may also have children by her. Right? She said, hey, look, I got this woman right here. Just lay with her. Okay, you land with me. You're going to keep laying with me. Hopefully I get pregnant. But while you're not laying with me, hey, lay with her. Do it. Get her pregnant. Right? Hey, Eve isn't doing that now, man. Right? Girl, you better get pregnant. That's what Rachel was saying. Girl, you better get pregnant. Praying that her husband gets this other woman pregnant. That's how serious it was to have children back then. Well, can you please allow my husband to get this woman pregnant? Yeah, that's my husband, but hey, look, I'm going to have children by her. Because that's how it was. Essentially, if the handmaid had children, those children by default belonged to Rachel. You can see that and play out in the book of Ruth with Naomi. You can see that play out with Leah and her handmaid. You can see that play out with Sarah and Hagar, with Abraham. Hagar had Ishmael, but essentially that was Sarah's son, you know, because that was her inheritance, for lack of better terms. So she said, behold, my maid Bilhah, go in unto her, and she shall bear upon my knees, that I may also have children by her. And she gave him Bilhah, her handmaid, to wife, and Jacob went in unto her. What is Jacob going to say? No. Well, he's Jacob. And Bilhah conceived and bare Jacob a son. And Jacob, it's like in Rachel said, the Most High hath judged me, and hath also heard my voice, and hath given me a son. So even though Rachel wasn't pregnant and Rachel didn't give birth, she still knew, because that's how it was in the ancient world, that this son belonged to her. And she called his name Dan. Now, Dan means judge, right? That's what she said, the Most High had judged me. Daniel means God is my judge. Daniel Allah, right? And Bilhah, Rachel's maid, conceived again and bare Jacob a second son. And Rachel said, with great wrestlings have I wrestled with my sister, because they was fighting over who's going to have children. And I have prevailed, and she called his name Naphtali. When Leah saw that she had left bearing, so they're having a competition who could have more children. She took Zilpah, her maid, and gave her, and it's a righteous competition. They're not fighting to see who could twerk the most, who could drink the most shots of Hennessy, whose weave looked the best, who has the best nail tech, eyelash tech, whose red bottoms are newer, who has the best BBL. They're not having that competition, man. It's a righteous thing. And look, I want to have children. I want to be a daughter of Zion. I want to have children. I want to be a daughter of the Lord. No, I do. No, I do. Here, I'm done. Here, you can have this handmaid. Go in unto her. So they're doing whatever it takes, man. Right? So like they're doing whatever it takes, right, to get this thing rolling. So when Rachel saw that she had left bearing, she took Zilpah, her maid, and gave her to Jacob to wife. And Zilpah, Leah's maid, bare Jacob a son, and Leah said, behold, a troop cometh. And she called his name Gad. So a troop meaning an army, right? An army cometh. So she knew at the end of the day that there was more men coming. And Zilpah leads married Jacob a second son. And Zilpah, Leah's maid, bare Jacob a second son. And Leah said, happy am I, for the daughter will call me blessed. And she called his name Asher. And Reuben went in the days of wheat harvest and found mandrakes in the field and brought them unto his mother Leah, right? Bear with me. Right? And brought them unto his mother Leah. Then Rachel said to Leah, give me, I pray thee, of thy son's mandrakes. Now, I want to make sure, bear with me 1 second. Make sure this is rolling. Okay, come. Right? Now, mandrakes, I believe that's what men or scholars call an aphrodisiac. I'm not going to go deep into it, right? But they're used in an ancient world for particular purposes. So she said, give me, I pray thee, of thy son's mandrakes. And she said unto her, is it a small matter that thou hast taken my husband? And wouldest thou take away my son's mandrakes also? And Rachel said, therefore he shall lie with thee tonight for thy son's mandrakes. So they was essentially selling Jacob, man. Yeah, it's my night, but if you give me this, I'll sell him to you. So Jacob is just, oh boy, I gotta lay with you. Oh, you just lay, okay, I'm gonna lay with her. Oh boy, oh, they sold me to you today. You bought me tonight. So essentially, Rachel sold Jacob, man. And said, you can have him tonight, right? You can have him today. You can have him today. But like brother said, poor Jacob. Yeah, poor Jacob, man. That was such a sad thing that he has to. Surely oppression maketh a wise man mad, man. Just being tossed to and fro. All right? The brother said, poor Jacob, man. That's a sad case Jacob got to deal with, man. Sad deal, right? Reading on. And Rachel said, therefore he shall lie with thee tonight for thy son's mandrakes. And Jacob came out of the field in the evening, because Jacob was working. And Leah went out to meet him and said, thou must come in unto me, for surely I have hired thee with my son's mandrakes. And he lay with her that night, right? And the Most High hearkened unto Leah, and she conceived and bare Jacob the fifth son. And Leah said, God hath given me my hire, because I have given my maiden to my husband. And she called his name Issachar, which means he is hired. And Leah conceived again and bare Jacob the sixth son. So, Leah, the Most High opened up Leah's womb. She's on number 6. And Leah said, the Most High endued me with a good dowry. Now will my husband dwell with me, because I have borne him 6 sons. And really, that's how it is, man. You may be with a woman, y'all may not really see eye to eye. I mean, this happens in Jake, you out in the hood or the streets or just amongst our people regardless, man. You might be with a woman. Y'all might have y'all rough times, but then y'all might have a son together, Then y'all kind of deal with one another. Then y'all may build on that bond. Y'all might get close. Y'all might have 2 sons. First, she was kind of like your baby mother, right? And then now, now y'all moving in. Now y'all talking, look, let's just try to work it out. Right? Then y'all grow closer, And then, okay, now she's not your damn baby mother. Now that's your woman. Y'all may have lived together. Then you might have another son, And then you might have another son. Then y'all may say, look, let's not play any games no more. Right? Let's stop playing. Look, we're going to get married, man. And then y'all grow closer the more children y'all have. Y'all built that bond and that relationship, man. You know? And Jake, you said, look, that's the mother of my so-and-so, man. Right? And you throw those terms out there because you know, we know you, Jake. Right? We know you, right? We are Jake. We are Israelites, man. And we see what goes on amongst our people. That's what Leah said. Now my husband finally going to dwell with me because, you know, Jacob and Leah really wasn't. He loved Rachel more than Leah. You know? He loved Rachel so much more than Leah that it said that Leah was hated. That's how much more he loved Rachel. So if Rachel's having these children, say, look, she's going to finally be with me. I'm giving him all these children. And he's finally going to say, hey, look, baby, look, I want you and only you. Right? You had this is Leah's mind, her hopes. I want you and only you. Look, I don't want Rachel no more. You know? You got to know our people to kind of understand what's going on. Like I said, you can't read this Bible like a white man. Well, you won't get it, man. You'll just read and you'll just keep rolling, but you won't get into it. You got to get into this thing. You can't read. And Leah said, God hath endued me with a great dowry. Now would my husband dwell with me. Not like a creep. You got to know our people, know the curses, know what Eve be dealing with, know how Israel is, and know what's going on, and you'll be able to get into it, man. And you'll be able to relate to it because this is your book. This is a book about your forefathers and foremothers. And the same spirits they have, right, are the same spirits and mannerisms that we deal with. Right, so let's read on. Right, so let me read that again. And Leah said, the Most High hath endued me with good dowry. Now will my husband dwell with me, because I have borne him 6 sons. And she called his name Zebulun. So Zebulun, it means dwelling. That's what it means. All right. And afterwards, she bare a daughter and called her name Dinah. Now, Dinah goes back to the word Dan, which means judge. It's really much the feminine way of saying judge, right? So that's Jacob's daughter. And the Most High remembered Rachel, and the Most High hearkened to her and opened her womb. And she conceived and bare a son, and said, the Most High taken away my reproach. So this is her actual son out her womb. And she called his name Joseph, right? In the Hebrew, that's Yawasap, right? Meaning he will add. And she said, the Lord shall add to me another son. So Rachel was a prophetess. She actually prophesied this. She was a shepherdess and a prophetess. She prophesied about having another son. She said, the Lord shall add to me another son. And Leah said, behold, a troop coming. So these women were on they were on a spiritual level. You know, they did certain things. Just madness. Right? Salakia. Right? There would be absolute madness on the Shabbat. Right? On the Shabbat. Right? Let's read on. Right? You know, we tried to block, Jojo Two Mays, and we blocked them, but they keep coming back. You know, we blocked them again, and they come with new profiles and new madness, man. Right? But we're going to continue with the word of the Lord. Right? We're not going to let Satan take us away from the words of the Most High God. And she called his name Joseph, again, that's Yawasap in the Hebrew tongue, and said, Yahweh shall add to me another son. Right? And it came to pass, so like, bear with me, right? You're getting into it, and then Esau, they're doing God knows what, right? To conspire, it's like to conspire against you. And it came to pass when Rachel had born Joseph, that Jacob said unto Laban, send me away that I may go into my own place and to my country. Because remember, Jacob, he was only supposed to be there for 7 years. And he was supposed to go back with Isaac and Rebecca, you know. And that's the map we pulled up earlier. When we pulled up this map of Jacob's journey to Haran and his journey back, he went from southern Canaan of Beersheba up north, right? up north to the land of Haran, as we scroll up. And then his dotted line is his journey back. So he was supposed to come up here for 7 years and then come back down south, right, past Damascus, and come back down to Hebron and back to this region, right? That's how Jacob was supposed to move, through the Spirit. But he ended up staying longer than expected, being in that land. Let's see if I have this as well. Yep. So journey of Jacob, again, that's the map key. So everything in the blue is the journey of Jacob. You look at Jacob, he came from down here, went up north to Padan Aram. He was being here oppressed for 20 years, and then he came back, right? So now here's the time when Jacob wants to make that move. He said, look, I've been here long enough. It's time for me to go back to my own country, right? It's time for me to go back to my own country and to my own people. Read on. Give me my wives and my children for whom I have served thee, and let me go, for thou knowest my service which I have done thee. And Laban said unto him, I pray thee, if I have found favor in thine eyes, tarry, meaning please don't leave. For it's like I have learned by experience that the Lord had blessed me for thy sake. And he said, appoint me thy wages, and I will give it. Meaning, look, please don't leave. Just look, what do you want? I'll give you a raise. Look, if you want a promotion, what do you want? And he said unto him, thou knowest how I have served thee, and how thy cattle was with me. For it was little which thou hadst before I came, and now it is increased unto a multitude. And that's what happens. Anywhere Jake goes, you build up, right? When we were in Egypt, Egypt had little, and we made Egypt one of the greatest empires. We built treasured cities, Pithom. We built Ramses, right? We built all of these monuments, sculptures, Anubis and Sphinx. We build up kingdoms. And these nations know that. They know, okay, when Jacob was with Laban, he built up Laban. He built up Laban's cattle in his land. Here in America, America was little before we came, right? Like Jacob said, for it was little which thou hadst before I came. This is how we know we're Jacob. Because these nations don't have a damn thing until we come and flip it and make it happen, man. And make it righteous. Like the brother said, we make it happen, man. You know, it's the same thing. Where Jacob went, he prospered and turned that, I want to almost use the word empire, but he turned the land of Aram, Padan Aram, into a wealthy land. When Jacob was in Egypt, he did the same thing. When Jacob was in the Babylonian captivity, Daniel did the same thing. When Jacob was in the Persian captivity, Mordecai did the same thing. When Joseph, right? When Jacob, through Joseph, when he was in Egypt, he did the same thing. He built up Egypt. It was little before Egypt came in a famine. And Joseph, he made things happen. Here in America, we made things happen. America didn't have much before we came. We hewed all the trees down. We picked up all of the cotton. We did all of the service in the field. And now this land is the so-called has the greatest economy. And Laban said, I've learned by experience that the Lord has blessed me. And that's how these nations feel. Let me read Genesis 30 and 27 again. And Laban said unto him, I pray thee, if I found favor in thine eyes, tarry. So they don't want you to leave. This is why Pharaoh didn't want to let Israel go. Because he knew that the same thing Pharaoh knew is what Laban knew. The same thing Laban knew is what these Edomites know. They know if they let Israel go, then they're going to fall. And everything is going to go down the drain. And everything is going to damn crumble apart. So you need us. We are needed. And these nations know that by experience, man. You see that? So Laban represents the oppressor, and Jacob represents Israel. You know? It said, for I have learned by experience that the Lord has blessed me for thy sake. And the Lord blessed America on the left-hand side because of our sakes. The Lord blessed Egypt for our sakes. You know? So, and Jacob knows the deal. Jacob said, Thou knowest how I have served thee, how thy cattle was with me. For it was little which thou hadst before I came, and now it is increased unto a multitude. And the Lord hath blessed thee since my coming, and now whence shall I provide for my own house also? That's how we feel, man. We've been here long enough. We built this land up. We built up DC, New York, America. When are we going to go back to our own country, provide for our own people? And he said, what shall I give thee? And Jacob said, thou shalt not give me anything. If thou wilt do this thing for me, I will feed and keep thy flock. So if do me one thing, I'm going to feed and keep your flock. So Jacob got a plan. I will pass through all thy flock today, removing from thence all the speckled and spotted cattle, and all the brown cattle among the sheep, and the spotted and speckled among the goats, and of such shall be my hire. So Jacob said, I'm going to take the weak ones, those with recessive genes. I'll keep those. You have the strong cattle, right? So shall my righteousness answer for me in time to come, when it shall come for my hire before thy face. Every one that is not speckled and spotted among the goats and brown among the sheep, that should be counted stolen for me. So Jacob wanted the cattle with the weakest cattle and recessive genes, for lack of better terms, and the slowest cattle. And he said everything that's not spotted or speckled among the goats, it'll be counted stolen. And Laban said, behold, I would it might be according to thy word. And he removed that day the he goats that were ring-streaked and spotted, and all the she goats that were speckled and spotted, and every one that had some white in it, and all the brown among the sheep, and gave them into the hand of his sons. And he set 3 days' journey betwixt himself and Jacob fed the rest of Laban's flock. Right? And Jacob took him rods of green poplar and of the hazel and chestnut tree, and piled white streaks in them, and made the white appear which was in the rod. So Jacob, he knew how to deal with the domestication of animals, right? He knew how to get these animals to breed. He knew how, you got these people, they specialize in dealing with creatures. You got the dog whisperer, he could talk to dogs. You got guys that know how to deal with horses, and they'll pet the horse a certain way, and the horse doesn't buck up against it. He's the only one that can ride the horse. And you got certain men that have these traits. Jacob knew that. He knew how to deal with that with cattle. He was the chief shepherd. He knew what sheep were weak, what sheep were strong. This applies to the men of the Lord, man. Right? What sheep are profitable, what sheep are unprofitable. How to deal with the cattle, how to deal with the flock. And a man of the Lord, you're looking at this and you're applying it on a spiritual level concerning the congregation and concerning the flock. Right? And he said, rods which he had piled before the flocks and the gutters and the watering troughs, when the flocks came to drink, that they should conceive when they came to drink. So he made this spot a hot spot for the animals to deal with one another, to breed, And the flocks conceived before the rods and brought forth cattle, ring-streaked, speckled, and spotted. And Jacob did separate the lambs and set the faces of the flocks toward the ring-streaked, and all the brown and the flock of Laban. And he put his own flocks by themselves, put them not into Laban's cattle. So now he's building up his cattle. All of the weak cattle belong to Laban now, and all of the strong cattle, they belong to Jacob. That's his plan, and it's working. It's working, man. Genesis 30 and 41. And it came to pass, whensoever the stronger cattle did conceive, that Jacob laid the rods before the eyes of the cattle in the gutters, that they might conceive among the rods. And this was all based off a dream he had. And when the cattle were feeble, he put them not in, so the feebler were Laban's, and the stronger Jacob's. And the man increased exceedingly, and had much cattle, and maid servants, and men servants. Slakia, bear with me. And men servants, and camels, and asses, man. Right? So Jacob grew as a mighty man of the Lord. Right? But with that, I'm going to close up. Giving, of course, all honor and all glory to Yahweh. Most I, when you were edified, I may do a part 3 in this. and go to Genesis, the 31st chapter, going into biblical history, going into the fathers of the promise and the holy patriarchs, geography, etymology, laws, statutes, commandments, and life in the ancient world. Most High willing, you keep the Sabbath holy, no buying, no selling, no lewdness, no sex on the Sabbath, no speaking your own words, no doing your own pleasures, no cooking on the Sabbath. Keep the Sabbath holy and call upon the name of the Lord, the Wadi Yahweh, Bashima Mashakwama Lakem Shad. Again, Most High willing, you were edified. Kwam Yashala. Shalom.